we have with us our very own Punjab da Munda, Kanu Behl, from Patiala to Cannes. It has been quite a momentous journey of his. After winning accolades for his films Titli and Agra, now he's ready with Dispatch. Thank you, Kanu, very much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been called the Patiala ka Munda. So good to hear.
But you are, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I just finished watching Dispatch yesterday, and so what turned your gaze towards crime reporting?
Yeah, so actually, I would say around late 2017, mid 2017, late 2017, तब तक मैं तितली खत्म हो चुकी थी. आगरा, I had already had like a advanced draft, and I was in financing. So while I was waiting for Agra to happen, I was thinking, is there anything else that I would like to work on? Is there anything else that interests me? And around that time, I met my co-writer Ishani Banerjee, and we
Mhm.
started jamming, thinking कि क्या करें, कैसे करें. And उसी
Right.
समय पे गौरी लंकेश हुआ था.
Oh.
And I realized that हम रूम में बैठ के काफी देर, उसके बारे में बात करते रहे. और हम दोनों को ही बहुत डिस्टर्ब कर रहा था. वो जो पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंट हुआ, उसके पहले कुछ चीजें जो हो चुकी थी, उसके बाद जो चीजें हुई, और
Mhm.
वो सब देख के वी वर फीलिंग लाइक देयर सम सॉर्ट ऑफ टेक्टोनिक शिफ्ट दैट इज हैपनिंग. समथिंग इज चेंजिंग, बट वी वर नॉट एबल टू फुली ग्रास्प व्हाट वाज चेंजिंग. So that became an interesting sort of starting point. And we started talking about maybe doing something within the world of crime journalism.
Mhm.
And very soon we realized that we didn't know the world very well. तो हम लोगों ने सोचा हमें रिसर्च करने की जरूरत है. एंड वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग टू अ लॉट ऑफ जर्नलिस्ट, क्राइम जर्नलिस्ट ऑब्वियसली, अ लॉट ऑफ
Mhm.
कॉप्स, अ लॉट ऑफ लॉयर्स. वी स्टार्टेड गोइंग टू कोर्ट हियरिंग्स फॉर क्रिमिनल केसेस. कुछ थोड़े बहुत अंडरवर्ल्ड के लोगों से बात करी. एंड वी वर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू गेट द ले ऑफ द लैंड, और वो करते करते हमको ना एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पिक्चर स्टार्टेड फॉर्मिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस, which is that we started feeling that this world now of modern sort of journalism, it has
Mhm.
become so foggy and so opaque कि अब इस
Mhm.
दुनिया में कौन क्या कब कहाँ कर रहा है वो अब पता चलना ही पॉसिबल नहीं है. And that sort of was really interesting because everyone was saying the same thing. So that became really interesting for us कि इसके बारे में कोई बात क्यों नहीं कर रहा है. All the journalistic films treat journalists as these heroes जो एक केस पे काम करने चलते हैं और उसको सॉल्व कर देते हैं और सब ठीक हो जाता है. बट नो वन वाज रियली टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस. सो एक्सटर्नली दैट बिकेम अ रियली इंटरेस्टिंग डाइविंग पॉइंट फॉर अस. एंड देन ऑल्सो वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग अबाउट ये जो लोग बोल रहे हैं सिस्टम खराब है और सिस्टम गड़बड़ है इसलिए हो रहा है. तो हम ये बात करने लगे कि सिस्टम आखिर क्या है. सिस्टम तो मैं और आप से ही बनता है, सिस्टम इंडिविजुअल से ही बनता है. And that
Mhm.
became our internal in to this film, because suddenly then we started talking about this really Faustian, almost like a modern cowardice kind of story of this
Mhm.
crime journalist जो जिसके
Mhm.
अपने इतने कंपल्शंस है, अपनी पर्सनल ग्रीड है, अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ है, जैसे हम सब इंसानों की होती है. जैसे जर्नलिस्ट वाली फिल्मों में everybody is talking about journalist first and human being later. But we thought,
Mhm.
what if we correlate this external gaze that we have found with this
Mhm.
Faustian character and let the two worlds collide and see what happens from there. And that's really when Dispatch started evolving as a film.
So you see Manoj Vajpayee's character, this Joy, as a mixture of victim, as a part of the system, as collateral damage, all of these.
And as personally responsible also for what happens to him. It's not
Mhm.
just कि कोई externally आके उसे कर जाता है. उसकी खुद की impulses are very much a part of what happens to him.
Hmm. But did you come across a journalist? I mean, like a crime journalist who are actually ready to risk their lives, go out there the way he does it.
I
One
mean,
really comes across these kind of journalists anymore, I think.
yeah, but what is interesting is that I don't think at any point Joy's character,
Hmm.
Joy Bagh, he's not wanting to risk his life at all. He's just
Yeah.
wanting to get a story, and then things, start snowballing and going out of his control, और वो तो बात वहां तक पहुंच जाती है. So I don't think he's a hero. I think he is desperate, and he has his own compulsions, and he has his own reasons why he needs to go this far. But on this journey, as I said, it's a journey of modern cowardice for me. So he's not risking anything. He is just out there to find what he can to further his own agenda. उसके चलते वो कहाँ क्या चला जाता है उसे खुद भी नहीं पता चलता.
But in a country that truly worships heroes, how challenging or how important is to portray characters who are not heroes.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I think it's natural because how many of us are truly heroes at all? How many people do we have left in this country with any spine? And this, I don't mean it in an accusatory manner. हम एक certain माहौल में रहते हैं और उस माहौल में जो हो रहा है, everybody is just trying to survive. And while it's a matter of survival, people do what they do. So I think in today's atmosphere, not just in India, the world over, if we still want to just consume only hero stories, then we are choosing very, very consciously to live in a fantasy world because there aren't many heroes to be found around us, at least the way I look at this. So I think I think cinema also has a much larger responsibility, which is to reflect the reality around us as faithfully as possible. And within the current reality, I think it's also important to look at ourselves very honestly and talk about who we are or who we might become.
But you described Agra very nicely, that it is the reality of patriarchy through the prism of sexual misery of men, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe Dispatch?
I think it's an examination of your archetypal hero, but the gaze turned completely inwards, and it is the examination of a hero, why certain people tend to want to become heroes, because I think all heroism at the end of the day comes from a certain lack. At the end of the day, आप बिल्कुल privileged या बिल्कुल अमीर आदमियों को हीरो बनता हुआ नहीं देखते हो. There is a huge section of our society that is struggling with a certain lack and is trying to make it and survive in this world. And probably some of the roots of these heroic impulses lie in the roots for survival, and that is what we were trying to examine through this film.
As Agra also said, and somewhere in this also it comes across that patriarchy actually we assume that patriarchy, I mean, it's more talked about that patriarchy affects females or women adversely, but the truth is that it affects both genders equally.
Absolutely.
So that is that. When did you start feeling all of this? While growing up in Patiala, or while navigating the world in Bombay or elsewhere?
Are we talking specifically in the context of Agra?
No, otherwise, generally.
Yeah, I mean that is prevalent all around us, and so often we miss the nuance of a very nuanced take of the world around us, because वो कहते हैं ना ताली कभी भी एक हाथ से नहीं बजती है. So patriarchy cannot be. I've always felt that patriarchy or men and their relationship to women cannot be seen in isolation. Where one can just look at the man as an oppressive force and the woman as the oppressed. There are several layers to these relationships, and there's a lot of nuance. And not for a second am I supporting patriarchy when I talk about this, but I'm just saying if we truly need to weed out patriarchy, then rather than only looking at it from a female gaze and a female point of view, and granted that has been ignored for a while, and there is a reason it is being looked at right now. But I think, again, to truly weed it out, it has to be a much more nuanced gaze. And that's why I feel like, if not more, but at least as important as looking at women and their plight in this society it is also important to look at men in a specific way, in a certain way, so that they can be shown the mirror and the problem can be addressed from the root, rather than othering them and painting them as these oppressors. It would help if we also try to understand that point of view and where things have gone wrong, so that we can truly find a holistic solution to this albatross that all of us have around our neck.
Mm. But is that why we don't get an answer to what actually happens between Shahana Goswami, who plays his wife, and his mother and the brother? I mean, there is only a suggestion to what may have happened, but not a very clear picture.
हाँ, बट लाइफ में ऐसा ही तो होता है. So many relationships we get into, so many relationships we get out of, but there are never really any sort of conclusive answers as to why those relationships began or why they ended at a certain point. It's
Hmm.
just that within the fictional realm of cinema, we feel the need to round off each of the stories. But when it comes to life, it is as erratic as we were trying to come as close to the a proximal lifelike experience as possible with Dispatch.
And going back to your journey, you started out with Dibakar Banerjee. You wrote "Love, Sex or Dhoka" for him, which has almost become a credo line for anything. Every time anybody has to describe, LSD is the word for it.
Yeah.
So my question is, what was the experience? What you may have learned from him? One most significant thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I was still quite a greenhorn. I was almost fresh out of film school. I had just done Oilaki with him
Mm,
as an assistant, and then I dove into LSD. It was my first sort of full-fledged, how should I say, hack at a screenplay, and
mm,
I really enjoyed the process. And I think the biggest thing that I learned from Dibakar was his complete rigor and his focus on unmasking all of human nature and not stopping till we get to the bottom of why we do the things that we do. So that,
mm.
just to be in that atmosphere and work on that film was immensely sort of liberating as an artist, and also it was a really happy experience for me.
And growing up, you have grown up with two creative heavyweights, your mother and your father, Navnender Behl and Lalit Behl. So how was so much creativity at home? How did that shape up?
एक्चुअली टू बी ऑनेस्ट घर में होता है तो इतना पता नहीं चलता. घर की मुर्गी इज ऑलवेज दाल बराबर. सो I was just being myself and growing up in this atmosphere. Looking back, yes, I think it contributed a great deal in shaping me, in forming me, because I was seeing a certain type of work happening, and more than anything else, I was seeing a certain sincerity of approach towards the work that was done. Again, a lot of rigor, a lot of hard work. So I think I got introduced to the tougher aspects of filmmaking because of my mom and dad at a very, very, very early age. And I could understand that filmmaking is not so much the glamour or the excitement of it, but it is a lot of hard work. It is a lot of very, very, very hard work.
But I assume you grew up in a loving family atmosphere, right?
I mean, it is what it is. It was like any other Indian family. We had our own set of conflicts. I mean, it's very well documented now. I've spoken about it quite often. I had a difficult relationship growing up with my father, and we had our share of differences. But yeah, I mean, almost every North Indian family has that. So I don't think
Yeah.
it was, it was very how should I say, I don't think I was the exception while that was
So
while that
I
was.
was wondering why the dysfunctional family becomes a leitmotif in your works.
हाँ, वो तो देखिए, मुझे लगता है कि सबसे प्यारी फैमिली जो पीपल हु माइट बी एक्सट्रीमली लविंग विद ईच अदर, डिसफंक्शनैलिटी तो वहां पर भी होती है, बिकॉज
हाँ,
डिसफंक्शनैलिटी ह्यूमन नेचर में ही है. It's
correct.
inbuilt into the limitations of our expression with each other, because at the end of the day, using language and our mode of communication through language is limited. At the end of the day, there is only so much we can express through words. So dysfunction is almost built into any sort of human
Yeah,
interaction.
yeah. All of us are flawed human beings. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are your characters. And coming from Punjab, we keep lamenting the fact that पंजाब में अच्छा काम नहीं होता है, अच्छी पंजाबी फिल्में नहीं बनती हैं. And here is a Punjabi whose films have shown an uncertain regard at Cannes Film Festival. You are such an acclaimed director. When will you turn your gaze towards your own home state?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I mean, it is because it's my home state. I feel like I have a huge responsibility to, whenever I do something that is set in Punjab, to be able to do justice to many things that I know culturally, societally. So yeah, one feels like one has to have the right sort of thing to get into, and have the confidence of enough work done on it to be able to do justice to us and ourselves.
But you have any story in mind already?
I mean, I've been cooking up something for a while now, but it's still in development. It's in progress. So yeah, still maybe a little bit far away, but there is something that I've been working towards, which is set in Punjab.
Hmm. And another leitmotif in your work is sexual intimacy. Why is that so important to you to show it? And
It's very simple, because मुझे लगता है कि whenever we are alone with another human being
hmm,
in a sexual sort of environment, or in the middle of the act, it's the most naked moment to catch a character with. You cannot lie in that sort of moment with the other human being you're in it with. And why not juice that? Because you get to find certain truths about your characters in those sort of moments. So I don't feel like looking away from them. In fact, I feel like as an audience, they give us great insight into who it is that we are looking at. So I'm always interested in those lonely, secret moments which reveal,
hmm.
that extra layer about a character.
But as audiences, we are rather squeamish about watching it. We may watch it in Hollywood movies, but when it comes to our own Hindi films, we develop a very prudish kind of approach, and our censor board is even more prudish. So, do you have that in mind while filming these scenes?
देखिए, मैं जब भी फिल्म बनाता हूं तो मैं अपने आप को ऑडियंस मानता हूं. आई डोंट थिंक सेपरेटली अबाउट एन ऑडियंस. आई डोंट अदर द ऑडियंस फ्रॉम मी. I am the first audience of the film, and I feel like if I want to watch this, then I have a deep faith that someone somewhere out there also wants to watch this. And after that, people who are squeamish, I mean, it's their gaze. I cannot do anything to battle it. I can just express the way I see. I can express best enough to get across what I'm really trying to have a conversation about.
And what about censorship? Now there is a talk about censorship on OTT also. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's again, it's something that is totally outside of my control. I don't know. I mean, having said that, I have not had too how should I say, too unreasonable an experience with the censor, because I showed Agra to the censor board, and I now have a censor certificate with minimal cuts. I was suggested just one visual cut and some audio cuts, which I was not
Hmm.
expecting at all. And in fact, the censor board, the censor committee really loved the film.
Hmm.
I've not had an unreasonable experience with them. I think they also realize that if a film is not trying to titillate, and if it's really trying to speak to you and talk about something pertinent, then I don't think they are looking at sexuality with a single layered lens of कुछ भी sexual नहीं हो सकता या नहीं होना चाहिए. They are very much aware of the nuance, and as I said, it's been very encouraging for me, my last sort of interaction with them.
And what about actors? Especially if it's an actor of Manoj Bajpayee's stature, having turning him around, because even in his movie, the Hansal Mehta movie, he Aligarh,
Yeah,
there are not too many intimate scenes,
yeah,
though it's
yeah.
about
No,
gay
it's the
love.
same. It's the same. I think once Manoj read the script, we had
Mm,
one conversation about the intimate scenes, and he said, why are we doing this? What is the rationale behind it? And
mm,
once we sat down and we spoke about each scene, and once he sort of realized that my gaze on it was not titillatory. It was actually not a sex scene. It was a
mm.
scene that all the sexual scenes in the film are scenes about a transaction of emotions between different characters. For
I
example,
see.
if you look at the scene between Joy's character and Shweta's character, Shahana and Manoj's character, it is
Yeah,
effectively about a woman who is
right.
desperate to get her husband back, and
Yeah,
she's trying to come close to him, and in the middle she wants to have a baby, and he gets
right.
really how should we say, thrown off by it, because he's probably
Yeah, yeah.
not willing
Yeah.
to extend his relationship with her, and that leads to another thing. So underneath the, I think वो गेज की बात होती है, जिसको टिटिलेटरी वे में सेक्सुअली देखना है वो देखेगा ही, बट मेरा पर्सनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू हमेशा ये होता है दैट it's not about the sex, it is about what is happening between these two human beings at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
given point of time.
Yeah, that's a very significant scene actually in
Yeah.
the film. Yeah, but what was your brief to an can you even brief an actor like Manoj Bajpayee?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's very open. He is completely a director's actor, and in fact, in that sense, I feel he's perhaps a unicorn in the industry, because
Mm,
it's very difficult to find an actor who comes to set every morning and has
mm,
no agenda apart from making the best film possible, and that's really a boon to have with you while you're
mm,
on the journey of making a film. What else can you ask for? So it was an intensely collaborative process, and it was just not just me who was telling him stuff, he was telling me stuff back, and we were improving, and we were trying to get to the bottom of every scene, and get the best possible iteration of what it is that we were trying to achieve on that day, and
mm.
that's amazing as a process to be a part of.
But did you give him not instruction, but any brief only that what is Joy like, or how to play him? Did you tell him
Yeah,
that?
I mean, that's a very detailed brief. Actually, the
So there's a
script
detailed one. Okay.
gets broken down into many zones. We divide the script into further
Mm,
into chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for Dispatch, we had 6 chapters, and
okay.
every chapter has a central emotion, so that you
Mm,
have your own codes as writer and director, as
mm,
director and actor. Not just with Manoj, with all the actors, so that you can refer back to those quick codes on shoot and say, remember, this is that zone, and we spoke about this, and this is what Joy is going through now. So there's a whole emotional map that you're trying to make, because also you're shooting this film in a non-linear way. Sometimes you're shooting this, sometimes
yeah.
you're shooting
Right.
that. So it's a whole workshop process.
Okay. But any one line brief for us to process?
As I said, it's a story of modern cowardice. It's a very Faustian sort of look, Faustian gaze at a troubled guy,
Mm.
who's very human, who has his own fallibility, who has his own frailties, and he's struggling with that, and he's trying to shape his life into what he thinks it should be.
And the way he mirrors that fear is amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. So talking of your journey, otherwise, this movie has been produced by RSVP Ronnie Screwwala. And do you think journey of indie makers is now smoother than it was, let's say, 10 years ago when you may have, or 14 years ago?
I think it's tougher. It's not smoother. It's much tougher now.
Okay.
I think post-COVID, we are seeing a definite shift in the way films are being seen, films are being consumed. We are sort of falling more and more, I think, into the American model, where theaters are becoming more and more about event films. And so, there is this whole narrative out there that थिएटर में तो जाके वही फिल्म देखनी चाहिए जो एंटरटेन करे, जो पैसा वसूल हो, which is not I don't think that is the original purpose of cinema. Cinema as a tool is such a strong artistic tool that it can help you reflect. It can help you in that dark room with people sitting around you. Yes, but once the film starts, you are with yourself, and that time with yourself has the potential to move mountains inside you. It can help us reflect, not just at an individual level, but at a collective level. Once the lights switch back on and we walk out all together, if the film really is trying to have a conversation with us, it can move something in us, and it can help reflect, and hopefully, I wouldn't say it can change our society, but it can at least start a conversation. And I think there is a huge need to remember that now more than ever in these days, that cinema is not meant just for one purpose. It has a much more important purpose. And maybe, theatrical distribution at large and OTT platforms, that are a part of it, maybe they need to relook at it, because if they don't, then I think they will become irrelevant really, really quickly, because I don't think what no one is realizing is that the audience demographic is changing really quickly. We now have many younger people who have exposure to all kinds of cinema from all around the world, and they're seeing everything, and they're seeing a lot of nuance in the work that they're able to catch from across the world. And very soon, if not, already, they are expecting a very similar kind of reflection, self-reflection from within ourselves culturally. So I think, yeah, I mean, these are tough times for independent cinema. But I have a deep faith that this is cyclical and it will change at some point.
But would you say OTT is kinder to indie makers?
I mean, आप ही मुझे बता दीजिए लास्ट आपने ओटीटी पे कौन सी इंडी फिल्म देखी थी which you really dug.
That is true. Yeah. But from a maker's point of view.
I already said, it is a difficult time. I don't think it's smoother. It's much tougher now, actually.
Even from the OTT angle. So
Absolutely.
OTT, and talking of Ghar Ki Murgi Dal Barabar, you're married to Sneha Khanwalkar, who's a wonderful music composer. How does that creative equation work at home?
I mean, it is honestly, I don't know how to answer that, because we live as family, and we try not to look at each other in a specific way. We just hang out with each other and try to have as much fun as possible, discuss what's happening in the world around us, and just be together as a family. So someone from the outside will have to look at us and probably say what that equation is like. I don't think me or Sneha can very faithfully sort of etch out what it is.
No, but isn't there greater creative synergy, or energy at home? I would assume so.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, we are both sort of creative butterflies in our own right, and we have our own sort of creative engines, and we keep both of us keep them running, and try to keep each other in good spirits, and we have a little one now, so a lot of time with the little one. So yeah.
All right. So, what else is keeping you busy? Of course, apart from the promotions of Dispatch.
I'm just in early development on a couple of other projects that I might take up next after this. So yeah, just writing and spending time in developing what is up next.
And writing and directing your own work, it's a good combination.
Yeah, I
How
think
does
for me it works. It's not like I'm close to directing anything that someone else has written. It's just that so far I haven't found something as rich or nuanced or complex as I would like for me to explore purely as a director. But I think as a writer director, it just helps because I can bring my own intuitive gaze as a writer into my worldview as a director, and vice versa. So I think, yeah, it's something that I enjoy.
Well, for somebody who really likes to explore complex themes, what is your take on escapist cinema, and if you ever watch a commercial film?
I watch almost all commercial films. I'm actually not averse to watching anything. I like to take in all varied influences, and also be aware of what's happening around me. तो देख तो मैं सब कुछ रहा हूँ. बाकी जहां तक commercial cinema की बात है, again, as I said, it is what it is. But I think cinema at the end of the day, has a much larger purpose. And for me personally, that is what attracts me towards films more than just the popcorn aspect of it, or just the entertainment aspect of it. I feel like I have a responsibility towards my audience. If I'm asking them to come watch something for 2 hours, asking for their time and money, then I might as well respect them as an audience, and ask them to engage with me and have a conversation with me, rather than just stand passively on a pedestal and say, आओ मुझे सब पता है, अब मैं तुम्हें बताता हूँ कि दुनिया क्या है. Because मुझे नहीं पता है, थोड़ा मेरी ऑडियंस को पता है, थोड़ा मुझे पता है, and I want to have a two-way
Together
conversation.
we'll arrive at something. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way of putting it, actually. But we often talk of FTII graduates. You did it from Satyajit Institute.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us something about that. How does that train you as a maker?
Well, I mean, the best way I would describe it is that film school gives you time with yourself, those 3.5 years with yourself, just to focus on your voice, to develop your voice, to watch a lot of world cinema, to see what the history of cinema has been, पहले क्या हो चुका है, and what are we in conversation with. Because not only are we in conversation with our audience, but we are also in conversation with what has been made before. So hopefully every time you're attempting something new, you're trying to take that cinematic conversation also forward. So that becomes an important aspect of being at film school. It gives you an opportunity to delve into the history of cinema. But more importantly, I think it gives you time with yourself to develop your own voice.
Or which movie you were talking about? How when you walk out of cinema, you are you have a conversation with yourself, and it stays with you. It moves you. It can move mountains actually. So
Yeah.
any movie that did the same to you?
There are many. It's very difficult to answer this question. I mean, I saw Ben-Hur as a 6-year-old, and that moved me. Then I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at film school, and that moved me in a totally different way. And then I saw Tarkovsky's Andrei Rublev, and that moved me in a completely different way. And then I saw Kiarostami's Taste of Cherry, and that did something. So it's just like, there are many films that sort of create a sort of nice little black hole in you, and you go like, oh my god, what was that? What just hit me? And so it's very difficult for me to mention any one film that has done that to me. But it has been many films over the years that yeah, I mean, some of my favorite filmmakers are Stanley Kubrick, Abbas Kiarostami, Emir Kusturica, Kieslowski, amongst the contemporaries, Jacques Audiard, Steve McQueen. Yeah, many, just too many to sort of make a decision on which one.
But as an indie maker, it is how important it is to get a star actor like Manoj Bajpayee on board. Does that help in any way? Apart from the fact that he's a fantabulous actor.
Absolutely, it does. It makes a part of the process, financing the film, probably slightly easier. So yeah, it does help.
It does help. And you were, of course, you've already said what you want, how the audience, the relationship between your film and the audience. But for your film is soon on 13th December, right? It's releasing
Yeah.
on Z5. But what would you tell your Balle Balle Punjabi dost, why should they be watching Dispatch? And if you can, for our Punjabi viewers, say that in Punjabi.
रेलेवेंट फिल्म है आज दी फिल्म है
Hmm.
देखो जरूर देखो ते थोड़ा बहुत डिस्कशन करो ते होपफुली ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਏਗੀ and I look forward to everyone watching the film.
ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਓਗੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਫਿਲਮ that will also be as complex, as layered, as nuanced as your entire work.
Absolutely, has to be.
Right. Thank you, Kanu, so much for your time and pleasure talking to you. And good job in Dispatch and all your other work. But I am personally looking forward to the Punjabi film that you will be. I hope you make it.